303. So make sure you're in the right place. Right, this is an in-person class. I understand that for many of us, it might be your first or one of your first in-person class after a long time. Right? In fact, it might be one of the in-person sessions in the university after a long time. Right? So I'm sure there are lots of excitement there, slash drag. Right? Excitement because you might the first 3 times you see your friends after a long while. Drag because you may not be able to pull yourself up and actually sit in the classroom and actually listen to some lecturer talk. Not used to it. Whatever that your case may be, I hope that this is a comfortable enough learning environment. I tried to get the biggest tutorial room we could. This is probably the one or two biggest tutorial rooms we could find in the university for a seminar like that. Else we will have to use a lecture table. Yeah. So we have almost 3/4 of the room filled. I don't know whether people will still add drop. This is still the add drop period for those of us who are registered students. I think you know that. So it is open now to anyone to take. Even if you're in the SDS, not doing a double major with psychology, you can take. But most of us are psychology majors or SSS students, so that's okay. Alright, so first thing first, I hope you have gone in to take a look at the course outline, which I show on the projector screen over there. Let me also show it on the screen. Right. So in our learning management system called the NTU Learn, right, you should see this. It is now version 1.3, that's the latest. I uploaded that I think last night. If you have version 1.1, 1.2, that's fine. Just some minor improvements. Right. So this series of classes will happen every Wednesday right here. Okay, it will be a 100% CA, no final exam. Okay, you'll also be 100% in person. There will not be concurrent online and in person. Right? So that's something important for you to know. We start at 3:30, we'll end most likely before 6:30. That's something you can expect. Right now, this class I designed it to be a seminar style. That means I hope to see lots of interactions, right, particularly in the second half of every session. So how I'll run every session is to have the first half or 1 hour or so for me to talk like a lecture. And you could actually just raise your hand. It won't be like a typical lecture where lecturer talks, student listen, take note, that's it. Right? You could in fact ask and jump in. Given the number of students you have in the class and the nature of this course, I think you could straight away ask questions. Right? And I could respond to them as part of the lecture. I'm happy to do that. Right? Then we take a break. Then the second half, we usually will go into what I call a flipped classroom. That means students in your groups, in your teams, you will take turns to lead the class in one or more activities. And I'll go into that in greater detail. Right, as we go. We just go through. So the aims, the learning outcomes, you can read from there. Well, I'd like to just emphasize that there will be, in particular, quite a bit of hands-on, particularly in the later weeks, weeks 10 or weeks 9 onwards, where we'll try to, I'll try to expose you via demonstration and actually getting you to practice one or more of those interventions, psychological interventions that are currently being used in the industry to help people who deal with other older people or to deal directly with older people. Right? So when I say people who deal with older people, I mean caregivers. So healthcare workers as well as family members with older adults at home. So there will be some hands-on there. There will be a project particularly assessing you and kind of pushing you to do what we call advocacy. Right? So in the School of Social Sciences, it's something that I believe we could do. And that is to have enough understanding of the geropsychological issues and problems, and then be able to see, perceive some solution that may remediate or that may address at least partially some of these larger issues in the social sector. If this was the course, Geropsychology in this school of public health, I would perhaps have done this a little bit different. Right? So I designed this course for a school of social science because, in particular, we could use the social element both within class as well as in the greater community to help us put into practice some of these very important, I would say, remediable solutions to remediate or address issues. Right? So that is one focus this course will have. Number 3, okay, the student's personal belief. That is the part, the reflective journal process. Right? I don't know if any of you have actually experienced writing such a journal, but more of us come into a course like this, especially any social science course, I believe with pre-existing ideas, beliefs, attitudes, right, on the particular topic. In our topic, it's aging, right? Psychology of aging. Right? You may, due to your own personal experience, as well as because of prior training, prior studies in, say, life sciences, biology, perhaps in, say, I don't know, sociology or social work, right? Have some ideas, have some knowledge, have some exposure, but you don't have direct experience dealing with another person. Right? So all these prior experiences may have sort of shaped your thinking, and that's what you bring today to class and for the rest of the 13 weeks. I'd like you to bring these experiences with you, match that to what you learn in this course week after week, and then write about them, and as you write, reflect on it. So that's really what the third aim there is. And I'll try to assess you based on your writing, your expression of those thoughts, beliefs, etc. Effective your visual subject in 3 pieces. Okay. So as I said, this is 100% CA, no final exam. I'm quite sure most of you have read this and you chose this course primarily or at least partially due to this. If not, please take note. This is very important, right, for your grading later. So the first 2 portions really are participation slash kind of either individual participation. Number 1, that is you being a respondent, you being an audience. Right? That's your activeness, your degree of engagement as an audience. Then number 2, that is you being the leader, the team that leads others to participate. Right? So you'll be assessed on those 2 components, 10% each. And the reflective journal, as I said, is something that you write your thoughts on. There's more on that later. The project called the advocacy project has 2 parts to it. Right? The first part is a creation of a media, a digital media. The second part is an individual report. This digital media piece is meant to persuade viewers or readers or people who read or view or essentially your media piece, right, on a certain possible solution to a certain geropsychological issue. Okay, individual issue, that is a problem for a certain person. To a societal issue, it could be a mixture of both. It can span several areas. It could be health, it could be, say, well-being, it could be, say, quality of life, right? It could be many things, right? So in teams, you will do that, and you will get a mark. You will get to peer assess or peer appraise one another in the team, right? Or to be fair, as you do that. And we'll have a final week of presentation just on this. Number 4, right? That'll be 20%. And finally, the written report is based on what you did. Right? And the criteria is spelled out in the final appendix there. And I'll go through in detail each of these. Questions so far, anybody? Okay. So, move on. Right. Textbook is free of charge because the NTU library has gotten a copy of this, which you could download. Right? So So I hope you have done that already and gone through what we will do today, chapters 1 to 3. I will assign journal articles starting from week 3. So this week, today, I do not give you any journal articles. There are already 3 chapters to read. Next week, there are 2 chapters to read. Right? From 3rd week onwards, you will see minimally 1 journal article. I will try to keep it to 1, not 2. Right? On top of the chapter, the textbook that are required to read. Right? And that's about the reading. Okay, safe management, I suppose I'm required to once again reiterate the need to keep yourself and people around us safe, to be socially responsible. So you know where to access all the requirements on NTU's COVID-19 measures webpage. I'm just reiterating some of the main points there, right, for you to take note. Here's the weekly schedule. Today is the 13th. We'll go through an overview of the course, overview of the topic in detail, and then we'll have all those topics there according to the text. Note there's no class during recess, right? And I had the flipped classroom activity kind of ambiguous or to be announced because I need to know the number of students who will be enrolled. Right? So at the moment, it is people who are in this room. There may be a few others who are not here but who are enrolled, or who wants to enroll but for some reason is not able to be in the enrolled list due to some maybe delays moving from weekdays to enrollment and so on and so forth. We'll probably have a clearer idea towards the end of next week. Right? So do not need to worry about this for now until perhaps even after next week's class. We only start to do this right week 3 on. Questions? Alright. Okay, so appendixes 1 to 5 give you more detail on each of those components. I think the first one need no elaboration. The second one, as I say, I'll give you more details of what the activity is, but know that it is to be done in teams. How many people in each team? I'm thinking perhaps 4 to 5, but I will give you the number after, say, at the next class. Once the enrollment is confirmed. Because too few in a team, we may not have good quality content. Too many other than safe measures issue, we may also have overcrowding issue here, so people do not get to contribute. So I need to see the total number, right, when we have the numbers. So that's the flipped classroom. Note that the flipped classroom requirement really is for you to read the class in participation. So I hope you start to think about the different ways in which you could engage your fellow students, right, through the topic that we will learn the 30 weeks. Okay. The submission of written assignment takes 2 forms. One, the reflective journal, individual work, and the other one is the final report, right, of the project. Now, for these 2, I will be very strict on the submission date. Please stick to the submission date. You can submit early, but do not submit late. Right? You can submit early, individually. For the reflective journal, I require both a soft and a hard copy. I spelled it out there how to do that. Right? The soft copy really is to ensure there is no plagiarism, because nowadays you take a copy from somewhere and paste. Right? I like the idea of work at retirement because in Singapore we have this incentive, that incentive. It makes sense for me because my mother is like that, my grandmother is this, and then of course I don't know who really is your mother and your grandmother. Right? I have to come these blocks just for this case. I don't want that to happen. Right? So that's a alternative requirement. The hard copy is, to me, is really for me to read, write comments and return to you as part of formative fit. So I'll return this to you. You get a sense of my thoughts, that kind of whether to what extent they gel with your thoughts. Right? So that's the purpose of that. Questions? Okay. And the advocacy project, media project. Now, you will find that there are various ways to advocate for different social issues, right, in Singapore. and many other places. One of the places, one of the ways to do this very effectively and reach out to a great audience, right, is through social media, as you probably will understand. In fact, people now make money through e-commerce so much more quickly, readily, with minimal build-up, minimal capital, right, and to reach so many consumers / customers because of social media. So we're talking about platforms that go very kind of privately into people's preferences, into what they do on a day-to-day basis, into their own social network, circle of friends, circle of colleagues, relatives, family, and so on. Right? So with a topic like this, geropsychology that impinges on family dynamics, impinges on personal responsibilities as a daughter, as a son, as a perhaps father and mother, you would find, right, that the heartstrings of people could really be stirred, right, by social media. You do a good job. That's one. Two, you will find that, right, agencies, government agencies, powers that be, do respond nowadays. Unlike, right, to social media pressure. Right? I think you have several examples of that already in the past, say, 6 months, when in the past semester when school was literally, NT was literally closed, basically. Right? So hence this piece, right, using social media, using digital media as a platform, right, to try to advocate for a certain possible solution, a certain possible way of understanding or way of thinking around one or more of those issues we discussed in class. I have to keep the time, if it's going to be a video or some kind of presentation, I will have to keep the time to a maximum of 6 minutes. So it's written there. The duration of the presentation that you will do, each team will do will be 6 minutes on the 13th week, including Q&A. Right? The digital media piece could be static, that means it could be, say, an art form, right? Graphic design, let's say. Then of course, then there's no time involved. If it's going to be a video or a song or some kind of music, where there's time to be spent to experience that particular digital medium, then I'll ask you to keep it to 3 to 5 minutes. Right? You will also find that actually social media / digital media, that it's a bit longer may not have a maximum impact. So that is the digital media production piece. Once again, this is a team work. So you will find that in this course, there are kind of two main things that you do as a team. The main one is this project, right? 20%. Then the other not so main, but it will happen as we go along, is the pre-classroom activity, right? Which will be graded in terms of your leadership. So I'm happy for, I would suggest that you be in the same team, both for practical reasons. Same thing, meaning the 5 of you or the 4 of you that belongs to this, that comes together to do this project, also participates in the flip classroom. Right? Both for practical reasons as well as for content or theoretical reasons. The theoretical reason is so that each of you, the group, say 4 or 5 of you, understand your thoughts and you can take position on certain issues, understand where your interest lies, and could kind of negotiate with one another to arrive at some topic, some problem that you want to solve. Right? But I don't strictly require that everyone stick to the same team. The practical reason is because, well, we have safe management, we have COVID-19, we don't want to have too much of mingling. Right? Though now we know, for instance, now you sit more or less about a meter away. In the past, there's only 5 are allowed, now you can have up to 8 in one group. So, so this group here is fine, not in the last semester. Right? So that's okay. Any questions on this? Besides exactly what to do with the information? No? Okay. If not, then the final piece really is just a report on what you have done. Each of you will have different thoughts on what you have done. Right? Some of you may think that this, say, dementia, right, the problem of dementia. Some of you may believe that it's not an individual problem or issue, then it's a societal problem. Others may take a different view, right? Yet some might think, look, it is more a social than a health issue, or you may take a different view. So this is the part, right? The fifth piece, the final written report, is the part where you espouse on your thoughts, right? Where you identify in a certain way, conceptualize the problem in the way you conceptualize, analyze an existing program or policies that help to address those issues, and where the gap is found, suggest or develop a new one, right? And then suggest ways in which these new programs, best policies could be enacted and implemented. If not locally, then elsewhere. Particularly in Singapore, because we are here in Singapore, and then the writing and referencing thing is just a standard APA. Right? Questions on this? So that's the whole course. We only have 13 weeks. Well, you would find that geropsychology, just as in many areas of psychology, is going to be very broad. You will realize at the end of 13 weeks, if there's at least one thing you take back home, besides geropsychology is the psychology of aging, is that it is so broad you really could devote 13 weeks to just any one of those sub-topics. And we'll go through those the week at a time. Right? So much as this is a level 3000 course in all contexts here, it is really an introduction to this specialization called geropsychology. Okay? Okay. Questions before we go straight into the content? Alright. Okay, I have an attendance sheet here. I'm going to pass this around. You please sign on this. Okay, any questions so far on the course outline or course requirements? Nope. Okay. Alright. Alright, so today I'll go through 6 portions. Really the content bit are the 3rd, 4th, and the 5th portions. Right, and then we would call it a day for today. Okay, so this is where I work. I actually am a part-time lecturer here with the School of Social Science. Right, so you don't see my office like the other professors in the Division of Psychology. Right, I'm contracted as part of my work with Geropsych Consultants Private Limited. You can easily find my profile on LinkedIn, on Facebook, as well as the company's Facebook page and so on, if you're interested in the kind of work that could possibly be done in the industry. Essentially, anyone who is interested in psychology could take one or two paths, right? One is to do research, the other is to do practice. Right? So some of us who do psychology know that you are interested to say become a practitioner. Right? To say help people with problems with depression, anxiety, that's mental health, or help people with behavioral problems or family problems. So that's one path you could take. And then you could train others to do the same path, on the same path. So there are others who want to answer questions that cannot be readily answered. That's the research. So this consultancy that I'm with kind of do both and in the level of an industry agent. Okay, I've gone through the course. Right, done all that. Okay, so let's go into the. Any questions so far before we head on? Okay, can I just kind of have a show of hands here so that we know kind of who are in this class? How many of you are year 4 students? Year 4, undergraduate. Okay. Okay, thank you. We have about 7 of us. How many year 3s? Okay, looks like the majority of us. Thank you. Year 2s and year 1s? Anyone? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Right. And can I also see the distribution here? SDS, biological science. superior and inferior. Okay, thank you. 6 of us. And how many of us are psychology? Really psychology? Okay. Many, that's many, the majority. Thank you. How about those of us in social science but not psychology? Good. Okay, that's fine. Okay, excellent. Right. So we'll know, we'll have to confirm this next week. Right? So now that we know, most of us are psychology majors. You are taking this as part of your elective within psychology. Okay. Okay. Actually, for us to begin, let us try to do this. Now, I think almost all of us have a computer or like a pen or something in front of you. Right? I'd like you to go to Google now and Google for Geropsychology. And I'd like you to share with us, right? Let us have an idea what you can find in Google. Go to the top, right? So Google Geropsychology, see what you see. So I'm interested in the definition of geropsychology. Right? You just Google it. Now, before you say what the definition is, could you just tell us, right, what is the source? So let's try to find out the different sources. I'm going to write it down here on the screen here. So somebody would like to contribute the first answer? Yes.
If the source is from APA, so coming to APA.
Oh, thank you. Enough. Just the source first. APA, enough. Okay. Later on I'll ask you for what it says. Just hang on there. So APA is American Psychological Association, right? Thank you. Other people, the next one. Okay, did everybody get APA as a first source? Anybody who Google but you found something as a first? Yes. Say that again. Psychology careers. Okay. Thank you. Psychology career. Okay, before we go into definition, just want to know the source first. Other people? Okay, your second result is Wikipedia. Thank you. I will respect that. Thank you. Other people? Third result. Third result. Fourth result. Yes. Best psychology degrees. Psychology degrees. Alright. Could I ask a question? Among those four that I just put on the screen, are there any one of you among your first four? You see a different source, different result. More or less than four, right? Okay, thank you. Now those people who gave me this one, it's time to read out what that is. So APA you said. Okay, can you do us a favor? Yeah, read out what it says. What is geropsychology?
Geropsychology is a field within psychology that applies the knowledge and methods of psychology to understanding and helping older persons and their families maintain well-being, overcome problems, and achieve maximum potential during later life.
Thank you very much. I captured two key terms, knowledge and skills. And then the rest of it is content. Right? Thank you very much. Next one, who said psychology careers? Yeah. Address the concerns of older adults. Addressing concerns. You didn't say knowledge and skills, but address concerns. Sure, thank you. Wikipedia.
Wikipedia is a technical geropsychology.
Okay.
So technical geropsychology is the application by psychologists in a range of subdisciplines like clinical psychology and cognitive psychology, or as quoted in APA, the knowledge and methods of psychology for understanding and helping older persons and their families maintain well-being, overcome problems, and achieve excellent potential.
Thank you very much. So this Wikipedia really takes kind of from APA, right? Thank you very much. And best psychology degree. Yes, okay. Sorry? It took from APA. Right? So it does seem like the internet, at least Google is telling us that this one seems to be a credible source, right? Seems to be a credible source. And understandably so, for at least one reason, that many of the people who are doing work in aging fields, right? If it's not for the medical aspect, actually are members of APA. many of the well-known geropsychologists who write textbooks, journal articles, and so on, are actually members of APA. Right? The other observation you want to note is that aside from APA, right, we almost do not yet seem to have a credible source. Now, I'd like to ask us a question. Now, at level 1000, you're looking at psychology, you don't know what APA is. So now all of you know what APA is, right? Okay, now, question is this. Is APA, American Psychological Association, this is not your textbook, right? So just raise your hand and say what you think. Question is APA more focused on the research or the practice of psychology? Just shout out. Which one? You say both. Okay, thank you. You say research. Okay, let's just have a show of hands. How many of you believe both? Hands up. 1, 2, 3, 4, anyone? Okay, thank you very much. How many of you believe hands up for research? Research. Hands up for research. Thank you very much. And now finally, hands up for practice. That means counseling, helping people one-to-one, face-to-face, client work, etc. Hands up. Okay. So most of us actually tend to believe research, right? 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 Okay. Now, think about it. If an association like APA focuses on research, then what do the university psychology departments do then? Isn't APA usurping the role of a university department? Right? University is supposed to do research, right? And teach, right? 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 Why is it that, right? I'll go to how general psychology is teaching, but how is it that in your own mind right now, that you see, why is it that an association like that is necessary for research? If research is really rather than practice and go. Anyone, any idea? This is something you can reflect about in the journal, but anyone have any idea? Now, to my understanding, right, an association is useful actually in industry for practice. Why? Because in industry, the organizations tend to be smaller, less well structured than university, right? How many staff does NTU have here? Yes, I hear so. Okay, how many students does NTU have? Students? No, 22,000. I may be wrong in the numbers. No. Staff 7,000. Yeah. So now, you would be surprised to know, I don't know if it surprises you, APA has much less staff than 7,000. Right? A university seems to be in a better position to do research and teaching. Right? Now, the reason I ask this question is because, as it turns out, APA started, right, much as it evolved, but it really started to help protect the interests of practitioners. American practicing of professional psychologists. Alright? So if you search APA for geropsychology, you will actually find a description of what professional geropsychology is. That means actually the doing of work, various work, to help people, individuals, and families on several issues such as health, mental health, well-being, job-related issues, personal concerns, personal safety, right, social welfare, and so on. So these are practitioners in the field, social fields, health fields, medical fields, and so on. So actually, APA was started to help practitioners in these various fields, not just in aging, of course, but other fields of psychology as well. I would imagine that in the industry you have unions, right? Heard of the word unions? Workers, you like hot workers unions, yes? Right? Historically, maybe workers may be not so well paid, the welfare may not be taken care of. So as a group, if they come together, the idea is that as unionized workers, we could argue for champion for some, what do you call that, CA is the term, stands for, just it is a, forgot, CA for essentially what union does is this, there's this term, you can Google, it starts with, the acronym is called CA. Something to do with compensation, something to do with arbitration. So unions would represent workers in the other, right? Now, it is therefore a situation now for general psychology, right? When we believe that APA seems to be going to research, the direction of research, right? That general psychology, right, is not, at this point, doesn't seem to be very well defined. That's the point. That's the point here. We will rely on APA's understanding or definition. It is nevertheless a definition or understanding of professional general psychology. So read that. I would like to invite you now to go back to your Google again. Read the definition of APA again. Now with this new lens. Think about practice. Does it make sense? It's a branch of psychology, right? That focuses on addressing, right? The word there. The various issues or problems, right? Is that the word? Right. Those, I'm sure all of you have the APA definition there, right? That's about it. Actually, you would find both in the textbook and other textbooks that we do not use in this course, that where research or theory is concerned, there isn't a great understanding of general psychology. There just isn't. Where the practice is concerned, yes, APA does have some understanding, and you have already found it. Okay, that's the situation of the field. It is still very new. So, general psychologists in the research academic fields do not yet fully grasp the scope and the depth of this new field. But we know that there are several issues to be addressed, that industry people are addressing. At the same time, there's a big knowledge gap that universities and public education institutes, public higher education institutes need to take care of. Right? We know there is a big gap. Okay? However, we haven't come to an understanding, unlike psychology, we now know roughly, at least we now have a more structured and curtailed version of what psychology, but not so much in general. Okay, I hope you can take that point home as one of the main points. So you will find that what successful, normal, and pathological aging is really still what we call nomenclature or jargon that is still in debate. Right? Still in debate. What constitutes success in aging? Is it good health? Is it good quality of life? Is it simply happiness as rated on the happiness index? Right? And then if there's success, then what is the opposite of that? Unsuccessful aging. So what does that mean? Failure to achieve a certain social economic status, failure to leave a legacy behind. We do not yet have data that can supply us information. Right? Very conclusive. So there are different thoughts. People, based on their thoughts, have done limited research on these. Right? Yet the research literature does not yet agree on what constitutes successful aging and unsuccessful aging. So same thing for normal. In fact, normal would say that most of the people, if you go by statistics, if you go by bell curve, then normal would be the mean plus minus, say, 2 standard deviations. Right? Normal. So then if you have the one end which has dementia and is pathological, you call it abnormal. So how about the other end? What do you call it? Any guesses? So you have abnormal on the one end. Normal is mean plus minus standard deviations of 2. What is the other end? On that continuum. What should we call it? Going by that form. From abnormal to normal to. Okay, clue for you. It has to have the word normal in it. With a certain prefix. That's right, supernormal. So have you heard of supernormal aging? Well, you know if you take a bell-shaped curve, then there will be abnormal, there will be normal, and then it has to be supernormal, right? Right? So then, in fact, the next question will be asked, is successful aging supernormal? That means people who don't belong to the majority, not in the mean plus minus standard deviations, but tend to be sort of doing very well. But what is the definition of understanding of well, doing well, right? So that is yet uncharted territory. Finally, pathological aging, right? The idea once again, is it normal, subnormal, is it unsuccessful? At the moment, what is clear is that dementia goes under pathological aging. That's clear. So I would say among the various diseases or illnesses related to aging, dementia is one of the top areas where research has gotten some considerable and established evidence of dementia. Whether it's due to Alzheimer's disease, whether it's due to vascular or stroke, it doesn't matter. So that's that. That's essentially what the textbook is saying, and what the textbook also acknowledges about the lack of clarity. Alright, so lifespan theory, there are many. Those of you who have taken developmental psychology will know there are many theories. No time to go through everything. Okay. You will know what the Erikson's theory is about, right? Erikson, as in Erik Erikson, is a psychoanalytic psychologist. So when I put young there, I'm talking about young adults. Middle is middle-aged adults. And the young old meaning, say, between 65 to 75. So you have the young old. Then you have the 75 to 85, the middle old. Then you have the 85 to 95 or 100 old. I mean, that is rough ballpark. Now, how many of you are hearing young old, middle old, and old for the first time? Okay, thank you for your honesty. Right? Truth is, many of us in the industry still do not yet know the differences or even actually perceive these differences until we get to do the work. We tend to, in what we call conventional developmental psychology, regard old as old. That's it. Above 65 or 70 or 60, in the past 55, that's old age. So the theory would, that part of the theory of Erikson will apply to old age. That's it. That means this stage called ego integrity versus despair, right? You read that, right? If you took developmental psychology, right? But turns out that within the old age, there are still the younger, the middle, and the older. And this ego integrity versus despair may not apply equally to these groups. Think about it. People who are 65 to 75. Is it plausible that this group of people are still physically healthy and perhaps even fit physically? Yes? It's possible? It's plausible. Right? Is it plausible that the people of this age group may not yet have grandchildren, but nevertheless will have children who are adults emerging as a young? I'm talking about 65 years to 75. Yes? Right? So it is actually plausible that at that point, right, one may still be leading an economically active or productive life, engaging in physical activities that one would in the earlier years, perhaps even going through some form of adult or continuing education. Right? Now, it is that debatable whether or not people of that age really are in this crisis, right? What Erikson would say to be integrity versus despair. Right? Because all the stages in Erikson's model is a crisis. Yes? Okay? Right. So this is just to give you the idea that yes, there is an established model called Erikson's psychosocial stage model. It does kind of cover on old age, but it doesn't, right? It kind of group all the 65 and above is one group. Right? But aside from Erikson, I'll ask you to think now. You've gone through developmental psychology. It's a prerequisite of this class. Which other theory you know of in developmental psychology that includes OH? Anyone? Just go through your head quickly. Okay, so let's name those theories. Right? So Piaget, you know what is Piaget, right? Piaget is called further development. Right? Do you have OH there? What is the final stage in Piaget's theory? Anybody? Concrete, that's right. Concrete what? Operational, that's right. Concrete operational, and that group or age group there stands for what? What age? Where is the minimum age for that? Who remembers? Concrete operational stage. Anybody? Piaget. Okay, time to flip the side. Developmental side. Yes, refresh yourself. That's right, 12 or thereabouts. Yes, early adolescence, right? So everyone 12 and above, concrete. Okay, so that doesn't specifically cover OH. Everything is under that. Another theory, developmental. Any other theories that cover OH at least that you know? How about Vygotsky, zone of proximal development? You know what is Vygotsky's theory? Okay, I think you returned it to Prof. Chibi or something. Okay, Prof. Chibi, okay, taught me that. Somebody might have taught me that. Vygotsky's theory. Alright? No, it's not covered. OH is not covered there at all. Any other theory you can remember? Developmental psychology. Well, development is supposed to cover lifespan, right? Okay, so what actually do you cover in developmental HP 2300? Babies? What else? Just babies. So babies, what age group? 0 to 1 or 0 to 7? 0 to 1 or 2, right? That's about it, right? Thank you very much. Okay, that will be you, but are there any one of us who actually went through developmental psychology, maybe in the different semester than me? And somehow there was at least one chapter on aging or OH or something that like, you know what I'm getting. Anybody? Hands up. Nobody? None at all? Okay. Thank you. Right? Thank you. That's the point. That's my point here. Conventional developmental psychology would not include in its content, right, the aging aspect. May not even include the adulthood, right? Perhaps just showing you a certain model, a diagram, and the only mention is just in print. The prof may not even speak of adulthood. Right? Why is that? There's a reason, but there are two reasons. Alright? One reason, and this is established, right, where developmental psychology is concerned, early human lifespan, right, contains that this age group or this age duration contains a lot of established research, a lot more established research than other ages. So that's a fact. There are many more scientific journals, many more university professors and faculty members, many more journal articles, even textbooks written on these areas than all the other parts of the lifespan. It's true. Whether you agree with the research finding, that's another thing, right? The fact is, there are a lot more research done. Of course, then, if you are curious to ask, why is that so? I won't go into that, that's another topic. Right? So that's one reason. So the second reason why typically we don't see developmental psychology containing aging, right, is also because, well, it is the professor's specialization. So think about the prof who taught you, right, developmental psychology. Think about the textbooks author who write on developmental psychology, right? Those 2 or 3 authors. Right? You would find that, right, much as they are specialists, experts, in child psychology, in even neonatal psychology, that is newborn, right? They seem to be recognized, or at least recognized as experts, or recognized as knowledge custodians, right, of the entire lifespan. Right? So I'd like you to think about and perhaps reflect on this in the journal. Why is that? Is that to you a necessarily valid way to understand or compartmentalize knowledge in development. Okay? So I'm giving you now ideas on what to reflect on. So you have no lack of things to reflect on your reflective journey. Alright? Anyone want to jump in on this point? Any contributions, questions? If not, the next theory. Shea and Willis's theory of cognition. So this really is a cognitive theory of cognition. So once again, if you recall the various theories of cognition, or rather I would say developmental theory, cognitive theory, right, you will find that they more or less also stop at childhood/adolescence, right? More or less stop there. So Shea and Willis is at the moment the only theory, so a pair of theorists, right, that has gone beyond that and say, look, wherever we stop at, that is just what they call acquisition or acquisitive stage, right, in one's lifespan development. Where cognition is concerned. Thereafter, there are other stages. Right? So in young adulthood, they would persist that human beings will take information for the purposes of achieving or attaining something. It could be a socio-economic status. It could be a job status, for instance. Right? It could be, say, an income status. It could be, say, an emotional status. Right? That one wants to attain. Say, one wants to get married, right? Become a parent. So when one starts to become a parent, then you see the next stage starts to begin, the responsibility or responsibility stage. Right? According to Shea and Willis, it means that now the cognitive information, thoughts, beliefs, attitudes are now kind of processed in the lens of responsibility. Which one am I responsible for? Right? And you think about it practically, it makes sense, because a person who is, say, a parent who is very stretched of time due to having to give care to a child, or perhaps give care to an older adult, who really want to prioritize his or her time or resources on highly prioritized areas of responsibility. Yes? So hence, Shea and Willis's idea. So from there, right, one could go into an executive stage or a reorganization. Right? So executive, doing, action. That's what I mean. So with what I'm responsible for, I will now take in more information in order to act, to decide. So think about the chief executive of the company, right? He or she basically makes decisions, right, based on information available. Right? Cover the where blind spots are concerned, identify blind spots, and still make decisions, right, in the absence of total information, right? I mean comprehensive. So that's what an executive does. And the human being kind of, right, goes into that stage and takes in information for that purpose. The human being also goes into that stage, takes in information, and is what they call a young old, right? That means about 65 to 70, right? To reorganize his or her own beliefs. So beliefs and thoughts and attitudes and all the learning points one has at the age of 65 may be reorganized. So for instance, right, at a, say, young adulthood stage, achieving, one may value, right, one may believe they're having some type of socio-economic status, let's say monetary possession, let's say bank account, to be very specific. When they hit a certain million, I want to be a billionaire, let's say. That could be an attainment, a level of something to be attained. Right? At the reorganization stage, according to Shea and Willis, right, this person may start to look at the possession of this wealth in a different way. That may discount or may not discount. So if it discounts the value, then this person may say, look, okay, actually I just wasted my time, wasted my efforts in acquiring all this wealth. It means nothing. But it may not be that. It could be, look, now with this wealth, right, it's not that I am a better person or I'm now more wealthy than others, but this wealth could now say, right, help me understand the needs of the rest of the world. Because with this wealth, I can now start to think about where to distribute it, like philanthropy. donation. So that is an example of reorganizing one's earlier thoughts, beliefs, learning points into then current thoughts, beliefs in young folks. So that's shape and release. So after reorganization, one goes to reintegration. Right. So now that different bits and pieces are kind of re-pieced together, right? He or she may at an old stage, so maybe 85 to 90 plus, right? Want to say, what does all these mean to me? So reintegration involves me. Right? The changing in my own beliefs over my years. Now that I spent say 40 years in this career or this work, now I spend say 30 years married to this person. Now that I have spent say 20 to 30 years taking care of my kid, my child, right, who is now an adult who got married, right, who is perhaps even a father or mother, let's say. Well, what does all this mean to me? Right? Reintegrate. And then some people, not all, may go on to have thoughts about creating a lasting legacy, what they call the legacy creation stage. Right? So the old is old. Okay. So centenarians, people 100 years, right, and above. Right? Perhaps before that, right, may want to think, what do I leave behind for my children? Women in particular, as we found in research, women in particular do or engage in such legacy creation activities by actually giving away prized possessions to others. Physical possessions. So you might think about jewelry, let's say. You might think about, say, art pieces that she likes, and in particular this is women. So research hasn't found that men do it. Men, on the other hand, right, tend to go engage in what we call succession planning in the corporate world. Right? Legacy creation. So you think about say big corporations like Microsoft, right, like Google, like Apple. Right? So the founder, right, you can easily Google who the person is. Right? It's obviously now no longer the chief executive, because he's not running the show. Right? Nevertheless, these are men. Right? You can think about them, how they kind of may or may not be in the owner's own stage. Many of them are really kind of young to be owner's own, but many of them perhaps are, right, where the organization is concerned, having or in fact have implemented the succession plan. Okay? So this is a theory that covers the cognition bit of developmental psychology beyond child and adolescent, which unfortunately is not really covered, it's not typically covered in developmental psychology textbook. It will not be for some time. Once again, for those two reasons that I will discuss. Okay, it is here. Questions on this? Yes, question. Yes. Yes, there is actually a last one. You found it in textbook, right? Sorry? Yes. There's a creation. Yes, is there. Yes, there are variations. So I think what you're saying is, look, there are variations to this theory due to most latest research that emerges. As I said, the field is new, right? It's not like Piaget's theory is so established, right? So people are trying to kind of improve on it, add stage, remove stage, draw different arrows. You can see those arrows there. Right? People are trying to invent new arrows or turn the arrows in different directions. Right? But of course, to do all this, you need research with data, right? Right? So the year 2000 version, which I put on the screen, right, has essentially 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stages. Right? The textbook gives you a little bit more. So now we are about 20 years from 2000. Yes, we may have that, but that's not yet established. So thank you for the contribution. Right? You're not wrong, and in fact a few others who have gone on to say 7 stages, but in fact do not have executive something else. Right? So this is really new knowledge. You're really learning the cutting edge here, and research is ongoing as we speak. Right? If we have more geropsychologists interested to do research in this area, we would have more established theories. Right? So hopefully one day you will become one yourself. Right? And then you say maybe you call your own theory by your name and say 10 stages. Questions? Thank you for that. Alright, let's move on. Okay. Alright. Alright. Okay, look at the middle box there. What's the difference between aging with an E and without an E? Has this ever crossed your mind? Should I spell the word aging with E or without E? Yes, anybody? Okay, you want to say something? No? Who spelled it without E? Oh, you never spelled it without E, it's always with E. Thank you. How many of you actually never spelled it without E? Always aging with an E? Hands up. Thank you, it's about 1/3. So the rest of you might have spelled it without E then. Okay. Alright, I have spelled it wrong. What's the difference? Venture a guess. It's not in the textbook. Right, that's one way. Yes. So which is British? Okay. The one with the E, right? Exactly. So the British will have E, the American will have no E. Yes. So if you see a textbook that has no E, you kind of understand it will be written by Americans. Right? And nowadays, many textbooks are written by Americans. So I would use it with an E. So you will find that in my slides, I have an E. Our own textbook has no E, right? Okay, you're not sure you haven't read the textbook. Alright, go check the textbook, it's right in the cover. Okay? Alright, there's no E. So, there are people who have asked me this question, where should I spell aging with E or no E? So I just want to verify that. It's a nomenclature, it's not a main content point, but just so that you know, so that at least when you walk out of this course, you will not feel ashamed, you don't even know how to spell aging. Okay, let's try another thing. When I get to, okay, you have your computers again, turn to Microsoft Office or PowerPoint, doesn't matter. When I get to type the word Geropsychology, just type it. Can you do that? Just type it into Microsoft Word, Geropsychology. Look at me when you're done. It's very fast. Alright. Right? Okay. Now hands up if you see the red color waving line below. Hands up. Thank you very much. What does that tell us? Okay, first of all, what does that tell us on Microsoft Office? Yes, come on. Practicing participation here. Okay, next week perhaps I will ask you to write your name so I can call you by name, because I cannot recognize you by face with the mask. But never mind. What does the wavy line tell us? Come on, you should know. Yes, this table. It's not a word. Thank you. How about this table? What does the wavy line know?
It's not commonly used.
Not commonly used, Ken. Thank you. How about this one? The most grades here. Not recognized. Right? In fact, it's a spelling error, right? Now, it's a spelling error. I'd like you to type click on spell check. So everything on the wavy line is spell check, right? So right click, some suggestion or word will come. What's the suggestion? Read it up now. Okay, what's the number one? Neuropsychology, that's right. Neuro, right? Everyone, the first one you get neuro, right? That's the problem I had when I was a student. There's no way when I was writing my thesis that I could get a computer to agree with me. There's no way I could escape or avoid the shame when I present in front of, say, other research students or in front of other professors, right? This topic, because every time I show the class this, I get the wavy line there. Every time. Until I learned how to do autocorrect and change it. So I went to Microsoft Office. So this applies to Word, Excel, PowerPoint, everything. I had to essentially add this. I added two things. One, every time whatever neuropsychology comes up, change it back to geropsychology. That's one thing I did. The other thing I did, I just added it to the dictionary. The thing is, when I reinstall the Office, I have to do this again. So I just rebooted my computer. So this is what it tells us about Microsoft Office. It doesn't recognize geropsychology. Now let's turn it around. What does Microsoft Office's response to what tell us about geropsychology? What does Microsoft know about geropsychology? The answer is nothing. Nothing. In fact, Microsoft thinks that geropsychology is neuropsychology. You are being prompted whether you are whether neuropsychology is actually the word you're typing, right? So neuropsychology, as you know, psychology student, is the most established field, right? So the practical point is when you write assignment, please be careful. Right? I obviously understand this, right? But when you write assignment, if I see neuropsychology then, okay, I will be thinking whether I want to read it again. Okay? I may not immediately remove minus your mark, but yeah, I just want you to be careful. But the point is that yeah, our everyday computer application like that, do not yet even know of this word because it's almost like Microsoft Office doesn't exist. So it's almost like saying, look, geropsychology doesn't exist. It's not found in your textbook, but I just like you to know this point. Right? The point is that hardly anyone actually knows what geropsychology is. If you say psychology, people know. Yes? I'm from the department of psychology. I'm a psychology student. Alright. Wow, you can read my mind, right? That's what some right? So what am I thinking now, right? Right? That's there. In fact, that was what happened to me. I went on stage. I think in my undergraduate days I got some bursary. Shook hands with the person who gave me a bursary. Asked me a good question before I went down the stage. So what's your major? I said psychology. Then he immediately replied, so you can read my mind. I said, I hope so. Okay, tell me how much you will help, where I can get the next big buck. Right? But yeah, so now, so first of all, we know that people around us may not understand what psychology is. So that's already a myth to be busted. If you add gero to that, gosh, nobody knows what they're talking about. You go shake your head, I'm a geropsychologist, I do that, actually nobody knows who I am. But they pretend to know, or they think that they know. So wow, geropsychology is interesting. Wow, that's a great job they're doing. But anyway, what's it? Right. So that's the view here. We are really in very uncharted waters. Some of us may, well, I have gone through it many times. I still do from time to time, from day to day. I just need to take out my name card, show it to people. If they bother to read, right, and ask me, at least they're interested. If they don't ask me about it, most of you don't know. And that's fine. Sometimes we don't find. Right? Hardly anybody knows what geropsychology is. Even in the industry of aging. So I'm talking about hospitals, talking about mental health clinics, I'm talking about, say, senior activity centers. Yes, they know aging. They know when the person is aging, is frail, may be falling, may need counseling, and so on and so forth. Right? But when you start to say, you need geropsychological assistance, what's that? Right? Today we know, at least from APA, just now, right? Research, right? What professional geropsychology is. But I hope this course, right, helps you appreciate that beyond the professional aspect of the psychology of aging, that there is a lot of what we call knowledge content involved. Nobody can do any profession if skills and knowledge, his or her skills and knowledge are not recognized as useful, right? Why do these, what we call staff or people who say help older people? That means people who work with senior activity centers, people who counsel seniors, people who counsel or assist caregivers. Where do they take their skills and training from? Or knowledge? They have it, right? In some way or another, they would have gotten skills / knowledge on geropsychology, right? The psychology of aging. Older people tend to think this way, older people tend to think that way. Whether those is good or accurate knowledge, that's another thing. Right? Now, hardly anyone recognizes that all these knowledge and skills belong to this body that should be called geropsychology. Now let's turn it around. If the psychology of aging is geropsychology, what is psychogeron? Is it the same thing? Okay, how many of us hands up again? First time you see this word, psychogerontology. Hands up. Thank you very much for your honesty. So okay, I'll give it the answer. Right, since it's the first time. Well, they're actually the same thing. They're actually the same thing. But psychogerontology is even more rare. It's rarer. So you cannot even find, not only will you see a wavy line below, you have this on Microsoft. Right? If you type this in Google, you won't have anywhere like an APA kind of association So for our practical purposes, because APA has already recognized the term, we will use geropsychology. But I just like you to know that really it could well have been called psychogeropsychology. Could well have been called that. One other way to understand how a field is called is to look at its salient. So now, geropsychology, just looking here, geropsychology. Which, between the gero and the psychology, which is the salient part? The part that carries the most weight in this course? Psychology, right? Now, how about the second one? Psychogerontology. Which one is the most salient? Gerontology, right? Yeah. Well, it's because it kind of, the full word is there, and it happens, it occurs in the right side or the back of the word. So the gero part in geropsychology acts as a prefix, right? So to speak. In the other one, the psychogerontology acts as a prefix. So it's kind of adding meaning to the actual word. That's prefix, right? That's what it is. So we would also like to understand geropsychology as a branch of psychology. So we start with psychology. We have all taken psychology 1000, or HP 1000, right? You have taken HP 1100. You have taken HP 2300. So that's your base knowledge. Now we are adding something to the scaffold using Geropsy's theory, right? So this is why we take the term geropsychology. But really, it could have been called psychogerontology if you start from gerontology. So once again, why? The reason has something to do with the development of each of the fields. Psychology is more developed than gerontology. Okay, so now at least after the course, during the course when your classmates, when people ask you to say no, I know what I'm studying. I know why it's taught that way. They can correct them if they tell you to study neuropsychology. Okay, the last one I just want to go quickly. Geriatric psychology versus geriatric psychiatry. Essentially, the difference is psychology versus psychiatry. Right? So we know the second one, psychiatry, is a practice in medicine, right? It's a branch of medicine, that means understanding how the body works, enough for medicinal practices, pharmaceuticals or surgical, etc. Right? To aid the human body. To understand how to understand the human body. Right? Where psychology goes beyond the biological. Right? Both of them are similar for the word geriatric. So you may find that some other people may call what we are studying geriatric psychology. Right? Especially the people who come from the medicine background. And they are the same. Alright? So you're not confused. So they are very clear where we are going. You know this is uncharted space. This space is labeled differently by different people from different fields. But more or less they are trying to understand or kind of referring to the same thing. Alright? So this nomenclature is not so much to tell you and help you to memorize the jargon, but how to understand the field, the scope. Questions on this? Alright? Then career pathways. Okay. I think I covered this a bit. Essentially, a geropsychologist, you could either do research or practice. In each of these, you could educate either in teaching, if you do research, or in training, if you do practice. These are the career pathways usually available. Usually, to do any career, you need to have you'll be required to have some form of graduate education. And in Singapore, there are only just these two courses, master's level at SUSS and at NTU in gerontology. Right? In geropsychology or the psychology of aging, this is the first round in NTU, division psychology. NUS has a psychology of aging class. Okay, it used to have, I don't think it has right now. I think the professor there has left. Right? That's logic. In medical school, you will have geriatric psychiatry taught. Okay? Okay. I think that's about it. You can click on all those. You can click on those to have a closer look. Especially in the US, maybe if there's value to share this. In the United States, where it is very developed, right? There is this program there's this council called COPGTP, the Council of Professional Geropsychology Training Programs. So something like APA, it accredits training program in gerontology/geropsychology. Okay, in fact, the word geropsychology is there. The name of that council has the word geropsychology. Okay, so this is yet another place where you can say these are credible geropsychologists. They know what geropsychology is. Okay, they have anywhere from, in fact, where do they start? They start from doctoral program. So bachelor level, they are not doctors. They are not bothered with master's level. Right? If you want to go into any of these programs, it's doctoral level. That's a way of view. Then you need to go into those programs. Right? And this doctoral program is go by research or practice. Within a PhD program or doctoral program, there is pre-doctoral. So within PhD, before you graduate, there is this pre-doctoral internship. And that's really putting yourself, say, 6 months in some hospital or some what they call VA or Veteran Affairs facility, right, to deal with problems that the older people bring. Then once one graduates from the doctoral program, there's still post-doctoral training. Right? It's not the end, it's the post-doctoral training. Once again, essentially it involves more what we call not internships anymore, but more attachments. Or what we call, in today's terms, from medical professionals or medical doctors, after they graduate from medical school, they go into, what's the term for it? They go into housemanship in Singapore and a residency program in Singapore. I don't know if you know anybody who is a medical doctor. Right? So in the States, this postdoctoral training in gero or professional geropsychology is kind of an equivalent of that. After one has to first graduate from the doctoral program. Then after that, you get your license after you're done. So it's only after you do the postdoctoral training, you get or what we call housemanship in geropsychology, you get your license to practice. That means you can now be an independent practitioner in your own clinic or center or something. And yet, to maintain your license, you can engage in continual post-licential training, which this council also administers. Right? Among the international members, unfortunately, you don't see Singapore. Queensland University is the only one there. So this is one other place to further your studies. Associate members, well, these are American. So that's about it. Ready? So you can say this is the APA of geropsychology, if you like. This is the established body in the world that's recognized for the education and training of geropsychologists. Right? So I have this all in the slides. I will give the slides. Okay. Any questions so far? This is something that you may be interested in. If you so choose to further your studies in gerontology in Singapore, you would choose among these three existing options. The center one is the NTU, Master in Applied Gerontology. Right? So that essentially has three, you can say, common core, concentration core, electives, so three main components there. Right? It's offered by the School of Social Sciences, which is where we are most of us are at. Right? At the master's level, once you graduate, if you're interested, right? They have 3 intakes per year. I'm not advertising for them, I'm just saying, this is one option. So you can look at those courses there. Some of them, such as you see the aging and the end of life, death and dying and bereavement. That is taught by Andy Ho, our associate professor Andy Ho, who is from Division of Psychology. So that is a what do you call it? A cross I don't know what you call it. A cross taught module. So level 4,000 year 4 students plus master students and same thing, but assessment requirements. Right? So that's the NTU course. After 1.5 years of full-time studies, you get a master's in applied gerontology. Now, those two on the left and right, SUSs. The one on the right is the SUSS PhD in gerontology. The one on the left, on the right is the SUSS Master in Gerontology. So it's not applied, but it's called simply gerontology. So you can compare now with the NTU course, where the similarities and differences. Right? The one on the right side, Master in Gerontology, SUSS, essentially prepares you for three tracks: the applied research track, the practitioner track, and the management. Right? If you are interested in the applied research track or research track and to take it even further, you can go for the PhD one. So that one is essentially, if you look at the core courses on the left, top left, those core courses there are the same core courses under the right side applied research track. But thereafter, it goes deep dive into the various research methods and processes in graduate after, say, 4 to 5 years of PhD in gerontology. So that's the highest you could go in Singapore. That's about it. No geropsychology. Right? So how did I get my own training? I did my psychology training in the US. So I graduated with a Bachelor of Social Sciences bracket honors. That was then how it's called. I don't know if it's called the same. Right? So that was really back then. And the first thing I did was not to do my master's. Right? The first thing I did was to actually work as a counselor for about 1.5 years to 2 years. So I actually dealt with people with mental health, behavioral, relationship, family issues. So very general, right? I was in the counseling center as a staff. Right? It was then that I enrolled in a clinical psychology program, structured training, what is now today known as the James Cook University Singapore Master of Clinical Psychology. Right? However, I opted out of this program halfway, so instead of graduating with a master's, I graduated with a postgraduate diploma at that point. Right? Primarily because I realized that in the industry then, even among my teachers, many of them are not training us or teaching us with the latest. Because simply they are not doing research on the latest or state-of-the-art therapeutic methods or clinical psychology methods of what they're teaching. They're not doing research themselves, they are taking research by others, sure, and they're teaching them good, but those are not yet the latest. Then only I found out after thinking that really it's very difficult to keep up unless there is a structured training program, right, set up primarily that. To have James Cook University to set up the kind of knowledge base is not going to be very realistic, because at that point it existed, and still today it exists as a private, not publicly funded, private education institution. Right? So I will not see full-time faculty staff there who have a tenure, who are likely to stay there for years, who would have their knowledge, translate their accumulated knowledge into documents, into curriculum. It's just going to be not realistic. So I looked around, there wasn't any other program in Singapore to do that. So on top of that, right, I moved into research. So then for the next 5 years, I worked as a research analyst in the Agency for Integrated Care, Singapore, which is an organization under the Ministry of Health, Singapore. Right, so that is when I started to realize that there is a contribution of psychology to be made in aging healthcare or aged care. Right, that is also the time when I enrolled in NTU's then called not School of Social Science, but Humanities and Social Sciences, HSS, right, in the PhD program there, here, right, and at that point there wasn't a professor anymore, anyone like that. In fact, Prof. Animo came to Singapore from Hong Kong only in 2014, and he was appointed in 2015. So it was when he came to Singapore and approached me in AIC, Agency for Integrated Care, to collaborate with his research project, that I realized, okay, finally in Singapore, we would have a prospect of a tenured professor in geropsychology. Right, so at that point, there was none. So if that's the case, then how can I do a PhD? There's nobody to guide me, right? To advise me, right? So I realized there's no other way. I have to do the research. I have to do the topic if I want to contribute to this knowledge. So I got Associate Professor Ringo Ho to be my supervisor. Some of you know who he is. He taught you 2100. Right? So he could advise me not on the Gero aspect, no, but certainly on the statistics aspects and on the research aspects. Right? So it is a lot of my own learning, but I have to depend on industry knowledge and my own reading. So that's how my PhD was organized before I graduated. So in Singapore, at this point, still there isn't more than 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know more than one other person who does geropsychology both as a educator as well as a practitioner. So I know one other person who does that. This person is in the industry. Right? So aside from myself, this person. Then as far as geropsychology is concerned in higher education or in academia, there are only very few in Singapore. Geropsychology. Gerontology, yes, a few, but geropsychology, perhaps we are looking at fraud and evil as well. So what I'm saying is, look, the space is still very new, untapped. There is a lot of knowledge here out there. Right? There's a lot of knowledge here out there. Practitioners are relying on experience, not knowledge in the industry. That you can take take away from what he's saying. You can of course also verify that by attaching yourself to any agent care organization and check whether what I'm saying is really right. Okay. So that's the state here. So in Singapore, those are the only options. But hopefully in time to come there will be more. If you are interested in this area, yes, you do want to consider overseas, and if you do want to consider this area in Singapore due to whatever situation, practical situation, then these are the only options. Okay, any questions on this? If not, I think we should take a quick break before we come back. Let's take a 10-minute break. So let's come back after 10 minutes.